Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Avalon Game Project. Um, Today we're gonna write some code. Yay! So unlike the past few days, I think we have finally got to the coding phase. Um, so before we start, I want to clarify a couple of things. Uh, um, so first of all, this series is the whole reason why I started this series is because when I talked to a friend about I have always had this idea but don't have the drive to actually push through. He recommended to record some video and upload to YouTube just to get the momentum and as a way of forcing myself to keep going, to at least give it half an hour to an hour every day to actually work on the project. I myself do not claim to be a expert at um, Python programming or cloud technology. I am though a professional software engineer. I do that for a living. Um, but I myself definitely have some gaps in my knowledge. I Even though with all the documentation we did in the first 3 days, um, I definitely I do not expect to get things right the first try. So I'm gonna make some mistakes. I'm gonna have some brain farts here and there. I'm gonna Google some very stupid stuff. Um, so bear with me, and I will though during the time to share my experience and my understanding of makes a good uh, what makes a good project, what makes a good program, how uh, the principles I have learned throughout the years. Um, I think I read something. I can't remember the name of the book, um, uh, but uh, I remember this idea from the book somewhere along the line of engineering is simply just stick to a bunch of best practices and to do some improvise to adapt to different situation. That's why uh, uh, engineers back in 16th 17th century was able to build all those magnificent or even back in Roman times to build those magnificent buildings, libraries, cathedrals, just with a iron rod and some ropes. Um, the whole thing, like they're just following some very simple principles and the best practices people or engineers have gathered throughout the years, and they were able to use just those very simple ideas without a computer or uh, other I think back then seems um, almost magical math to build something that even now we believe are almost impossible. I think that's the power of stick to the best practices, stick to the principles. Um, and I think I have advocated in the past few days about a couple of ideas of how to make a good program. The Well, if you Google that, I'm sure you find lots of things: open close principles, dependent inversion of control. It's I can keep going, but um, the idea is I think it's well, at least my personal experience is that when hearing about those principles, they all make perfect sense. But when when I actually put my fingers on the keyboard, somehow I don't get it. Somehow I do not understand how can I apply those principles when I face something, when I face some problems. So um, uh, again, I myself do not claim to be any expert. I am, I think, uh, a better above average software engineer. I have the chance and the opportunities to work with some amazing people, really smart and experienced, hardworking software engineers, and I have learned a lot from them. So I am going to try to spread all those ideas as much as possible. So if I'm wrong, well, feel free to point it out. I am going to, of course, correct and learn from it. And I definitely am not shy of admitting I am wrong. Um, so yeah, again, I've been blabbing about all those non-technical details for almost 10 minutes. Well, if you are actually watching and listen to me sing all this, thank you very much. And yeah, let's get started. So yesterday, I think I have created all these just to give an idea of what kind of what is dependency injection and what kind of state machine we want to build. And later I have made some changes to the structure. So I am going to encapsulate all these logic into a game core package, because this whole package will be deployed to almost every single Lambda function when we deployed it to AWS Lambda. Um, and uh, and I think I can't remember from which book. I'm pretty sure it was from Uncle Bob. It's either Clean Code or Clean Coder. The idea is that your project structure should look like a house blueprint. Um, so when you don't have to look into the details. So, but you just take one quick look. You should be able to know if this blueprint is for a house or for an office or for some what kind or for a mall, right? Because because they have like major characteristics. um, you can simply identify, like I think I'm pretty sure it was Uncle Bob. So for a house blueprint, you see an entrance, you immediately should see a living space, and then there's a family room, there's a kitchen, there's a master bedroom, something like that. But you definitely do not see that in an office building or a mall. So the same theory applies here. We want anyone who take a quick peek of this of the source code, they would understand. Okay, first of all, this is a game. Second of all, this is it's using database. The game apparently is a state machine. They are going to deploy. They're deploying this to the cloud and using what kind of framework to do that. And a little bit spoiler here, we are going to use AWS SAM. I think SAM stands for Serverless Application Model, which is a framework. I don't know if I should call it a framework. provided by Amazon. It's basically a superset of CloudFormation. We're basically using YAML file uh, uh, and uh, and the CLI provided by Amazon to create all the resources on AWS and deploy our code there. Um, so I'm I hope this I think this makes much sense um, so here we name the package game core, and at the very root there's a state machine. I think this is pretty self-explanatory that so this project Avalon is a game, and the game itself is a state machine. It has different states, uses different services and repositories once we have repositories, we can be pretty sure that there's a database. We're using services and repositories to interact with something. At least we're saving something to the database, and what we save to the database is the models, or here we call it entities because it's used across the different components. It's not only for the database, so they're stored here. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so once we have that, so yesterday we so we started with game service. So actually I should have started with the states, but you know what, I think I can start with the state. Yeah, you know what, let's just do that. um, this definitely involves more thinking and more planning. I hope I'll have enough brain power to think this through while talking. So let's get started. So back in the design doc, I think we have the state machine. So this, I'm not gonna lie, I asked ChatGPT to generate this for me. Actually, in a way, I think it makes sense. Let's let's revisit this. So at the very first, once the game admin created this game, so the game is already the game is already in the database. So I think game setup is the initial state of everything. So I think during the game setup phase, we should be able to support a couple of actions, which is so for every player to join, I think we so yeah, we are going to broadcast when a player joins. I think I should add it here. Okay, so we broadcast that. We broadcast that game service, and we are going to broadcast when we're going to broadcast a when the admin updates the game config. So once everybody is joined, the game admin is going to the game admin is going to send the event that says the game has started, and so of course we are going to broadcast that event and save it. Then the game should go into the next state, which is info reveal. Info reveal. So I'm debating if this should be a state because it's transient. We we do not actually stay in this state. So yeah, let's think about this. After the game started, we reveal our we basically assign everybody a random role, and we are going to assign random role and calculate uh, which player does that role knows. Um, and then after that, we're going to actually start a mission, start a round, and basically goes into the team leader assignment state. Um, this should definitely be a state, but how do we treat the info reveal is something I'm thinking. So maybe what we can do is to actually expand the state a little bit for it to have entry action and exit action. So in this case, the game setup state would have a would well, it still doesn't have an entry action, but it would have an exit action, um, which is to assign the roles. Yeah, I think we should do that. So okay, I think we can combine these two and call it. Um, let's just call it game setup, right? Yeah, let's just call it game setup. I think it's pretty good. Yep. Okay, let's go back to our code. And so for this, okay, then we'll have to implement so so in this case, I don't think there's a good way of ensuring the entry actions and the exit actions are always called in order, because we are going to override the handle method. So now I wonder if it actually makes sense to have this. You know what? Let's not pre. Sorry. Let's not. Let's not optimize this prematurely. Let's just keep it this way. I am going to create a new state called game setup state. This game setup state, of course, extends the state class. Yeah, I don't think the self. You know what? I'll just make it to generate this one. We're not going to use it. So on enter, on exit, I can't think a way of using it. So let's just delete it. Render update, no, I don't like it. Okay, so let's import this state and Wait, why it's not happy about this? What? No. Implement abstract class handle. Oh, it is just handle event. Okay, let me delete this one. So this is not handle events, but just handle. So event, of course, we want to add a type. So okay, so here are a few things I want to mention. First of all, I know that in Python we don't really have a private property per se, but I would still. So it's still open for discussion. Actually, there are lots of um, um, okay, let me finish this sentence first. There are still lots of debates about whether this pattern makes sense, which is to add an underscore in front of the self properties, so to show that this is a protected protected field or property, and I think the double underscore is private. But the thing is, in Python itself, there's no. It's basically a honor-based system. There's no easy way to prevent someone from to prevent the children class from accessing the properties of a parent class. So this is more like a pattern for people to understand instead of to the compiler, to the Python interpreter, it doesn't make any difference. So I myself, I'm not a huge believer of this, but since I am making a video, so I am going to follow the more strict pattern, which is to add this underscore in front of this property. Yeah, so let's do it the right way. Another issue I want to mention is that, as you can see yesterday, we just mentioned the state name, but we didn't give a type. So I think, well, it is highly recommended to use type hint in Python and other. Oh God, sorry. The word just other languages like JavaScript, Java, well, not compile languages, but languages like Python or JavaScript, because I mean, dynamic typing is cool, but at the end of the day, when we do projects, we still want some checks and balances, and a type of parameter is vital, and I think it's generally a good practice to not reassign the same variable to a different type, and it's definitely improved the it definitely improves the readability by a lot. So back when I worked with Node.js, I can't tell you how many times I have to go up 10 layers just trying to figure out what structure does the parameter I'm given look like. So let's do that. And another thing is, so we're gonna give it a type, and the type of this. So, okay, first of all, why do I give it a name? So because this name is will be used when we actually, I think I wrote it in the game service. So we are going to use it. Oh, I didn't. Oh, sorry. Okay, my bad. So okay, why do we need a name? Because remember we mentioned the lambda only runs when we invoke it. So it's so the problem is that every time we receive a request or event, we bring up we invoke a lambda function. It's basically a function running in a very short-lived virtual machine or Docker instance. And after that, the instance is destroyed, so there's no way to maintain the state. That's why lambda is is stateless. But the game is not stateless. It's actually a state machine. So to maintain this state machine, to be able to retrieve the game state at any given time, we will have to store the game state in the database. And in our case, there's not much context, or the context is saved in the database as events or entries. For example, if we are at now mission 2, round 2, we should be able to see to find the 2 missions and 2 rounds of mission 2. So in this case, I think, well, at this very moment, I think the game state is using a string to represent the game state is good enough. So I am going to stick with that. But using string, but I don't want to just randomly using string for like something like this, because it is so strings it's very easily to make a mistake. You can mistype something, like you can mess up the upper or lower case. It's just too flexible. Let's put it that way. So I think it's so when you're trying to name something, or when you're trying to use the we need some constants in your project. I think it's generally a good idea to create a package named constants, or even to create the constants here. So state machine state. I think it's a yeah, I think it's a good idea to put it here. Let's put it here for now. So class state name, and it's enum. Okay. So now we have state name. We have game setup. Oh. No, I think this is good enough. Should I use all capital or this? Doesn't matter. See, this is another reason why it's a good idea to use enum comparing to just string. So, okay, let me show you. So now we can name, we can add a type to the name. So its type would be state name, and it's gonna be like this. So in the future, if we were to game start, so in this case, this would not be game setup, it would be state name dot game setup. So in the future, if we do decide, okay, this is a bad idea, I want to change it to all caps, all we have to do is, like, instead of doing a global replace, a finite replace, all we have to do is just refactor our code to change this to game setup. Oh, what did I do? Wait, no. Sorry, guys. Okay, refactor. Setup. And then the IDE would help us to find everywhere it's used and help us to actually change the value. We can be sure that every single place is replaced. And then if we are worried about what is saved in the database, all we have to do is just to change this one place, which is another principle, the dry principle, do not repeat yourself. Ideally, we wanted to define one thing in one single place, and so when it's used, it's all just reference to this one single source of truth, so that one single source of truth, so that when we do want to change something, we know all we have to do is just change one place and everywhere else is affected. Okay, so we have the game set up. Let's keep it that way. If later I decide not to like it, we can refactor. I myself have this problem, which is like to have the tendency of premature optimization. That is indeed the root of all evil. I encourage everyone to just look for it, to be careful, be more careful about these ideas, because making, well, I believe, especially when you're trying to do some personal project, making things work is definitely more important than making things work well. Because if you don't have something even working, how do you make it work well? It's a mistake I often make. Maybe you are better than me in this way, but this is a shout out. So okay, so we have this, and I think in game setup, so let's add some documentation. What we decided to do, we decided, so the game setup phase is, first of all, broadcast handles player joined event, and yeah, player left is also important. Game start, game end, we don't care. Yep. Okay, so these three um, um, uh, the when receive a player joined event, save the save the event is goes without saying. Broad. No, actually, on another thought, do we want even the game setup stage to handle player joined event, because it is not a core game logic. The game doesn't really care who joined, right? Well, it manages the players for sure. Okay, you know what? When in doubt, do as little as possible. So I am going to only handle game start event and handles game start event. Transitions to how did we name that? We name it team leader assignment. Is it a good name? Okay, we can change that later. Game team leader assignment state upon completion. The complete upon receiving game start event. Okay. So the reason why I'm looking at this event class, the event data class, is because I want to verify the event here. Yep. Okay. Okay, in the event, we will have to add a new entry named event type or event name. Event type is good. Will it be a string or again a enum? So we actually don't we have control over event type. This event type is purely for comparison. We do care about its value, and the value is actually a contract between the backend and the front end, because when we send all those events to the front end for it to reconstruct the game state, the front end will have to understand what the type is. So since we are going to have to, this will be passed as a string to a different component after all. So I do not see, I, I do not see the value of making that a constant, an enum. I will keep it as a, but in this case, it's very hard to enforce. Um, it's very hard to enforce the event to use the particular event type. I see. This is what. So okay. To make things easier or more complicated, little bit torn. Okay, I'll keep it as string for now. When we actually but here we already made an enum. Here like enum makes sense because the state name is used in memory, so we do need this reference. But this is saved in the database. I think it's more of a reason for it to use enum. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna make it an enum. So where do I put it? Event type. It definitely should not put in the entities because this constant has nothing to do with the entity itself. It doesn't belong to the states. You know what? I'm gonna create a event type just on top of it. Later we can event types or event type. Event type would be good enough. Yeah. Class event type enum. Types. Yeah, so this auto-generated code is really stupid. So yeah, I think get a little bit distracted here. I think we hear many people say that yeah, the software engineers are going to be replaced, blah blah blah, because of the AI, large language model, blah blah blah, and like all the people are saying that, but to me, this argument is clearly false because see so I know like many software developers or software engineers do repetitive things, copy paste from Stack Overflow, yada yada yada, but at the end of the day, I think software engineer, the work of a software developer is somehow a little bit more complicated than driving a car, right? So, and making a mistake in your code, I think definitely, well, definitely not in every single project, but in many projects, it definitely would cost the whole society more than a few car crashes. So I really wouldn't worry software developers being replaced by AI um, at a time where self-driving cars are not a thing. So yeah, yeah. I just thought about this every time I see it generates those stupid code for me. I'm rolling my eyes. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't work. It's not like that. Okay. Anyway, so we have game. Let's follow the same pattern. Start event. Game start event. This because we're going to save it. Let's go back to here. Nope, it was event. Event. We want the type to be event type. Okay, cool. We have that. So in the game setup state, first of all, we want to verify. I think if you watch some programming, okay, if you watch some programming tutorials, I think one thing people often mention is that try to avoid these like things like this. Try to avoid these nested ifs, because it's very hard for a human brain to keep all those contexts, which is actually very true. So what I encourage everyone to do is to use the reverse check. So in our case, we only want this to be able to handle a game start event. So let's start with if event.name is not event.type is not isn't equal to event type dot import this so that it can auto generate this for us. Game start raise value error invalid event type for game this. So I think I have a habit of wait, was it a game start? How did we name it? Game start event. I see. No wonder. Game start event. No, okay, now it's happy. So okay, where was that? Yeah, I would like to give a little bit more context because again, this is our personal project. We don't worry that much about leaking the internal information. So it's definitely much more helpful if we know what went wrong. So in this case, what I wanted to do is so invalid okay, I want to say something like game setup state expect only game start event got event dot type dot value. Is it Oh yeah, it's a field, not okay. A value. So in this case, when something actually went wrong, we know what kind of event did we actually get. Okay. Once we have that, so now we know for a fact that this event is a game start event. Now we want to do two things. Let's write this down. On exit, the following. Exit, execute the following steps. One is we said we want to assign rows to players. Two, assign rows to players, then broadcast game has started, and 3, we wanted to notify players their row and non-players. Okay, this is actually pretty cool. So yeah, let's do the following things. So, and again, remember, I'm going to cue the inversion of control again. So this state only cares about executing the logic. So all these steps, we should just get something and make them executed. Like, for example, assigning rows to player. So this should be handled by a player service instead of games. So a state machine should only care about state. So I would like to assume there is a player service to handle this, and I wanted to have, so it has the broadcast, and I wanted to have a comm service to handle the broadcast, and I want to have notifying players their roles and non-players, I think, is also the so okay, yeah, let's think about this. So should the service handle the broadcasting, or the state should be handling that? So we could have player service to have a say set up or initialize players and basically update their roles and known players in the database. Then then use those data. The player service could simply broadcast that. Okay, actually, you know what? Change my mind. I think this should be handled by the player service itself. I hope I'm not wrong. Exit. Exit initialize players. So first of all, let's actually yeah, this might be a bad name. Okay, player service. Let's just create a player service here. Player service class player service init definite. This is from DAO. Jesus, I haven't heard that for a while. Self let's just keep it there. Def initialize player just player service.initialize. I think this is good enough, and all we need is a game ID, which is a string, and the return value should just be none. And because we've said we want the player service to to handle the communication, so we about it to have so a dependency of player service is the com service. So, and then we have to create a com service. Yeah, see this? Yeah, in the beginning it's very annoying. Okay, I'm not gonna even implement this. Okay, so with all this being said, let's go back to the game setup state. Now we finally have a player service, and we have, of course, as we said, the front underscore, and here we are just going to call the to initialize for the player service to initialize. The initialize now setup. Okay, I have to, you know what? I hate to do this, but okay. Once we have that, of course, we are going to return the next state, but between each state they are so let's do something like this. So I think each state, other than the name, they should also have a next state. The reason why I'm not adding a typing here is because Python is still having some issue with self reference. So if we put state here, it would complain it doesn't know what state is, because of course we what we're trying to reference is the class itself. And I remember seeing something online says there's a self type here. I don't know if it works. Yeah, it looks like it works. Oh, here we're not following the pattern. Self dot next state equals next state. Okay, so in this case, once we have that, let's go back to game setup. So it would the return value is self dot next state. Okay, so this is done. Okay, it's been almost an hour, so I think we'll stop here. We added quite a few services, even though it's just skeletons. Oh, I'm sorry. So I added a few skeletons and started to implement some logic. Things are slow because I've been blabbing, but you know, you know, what's the hurry, right? This is just a pet project. If you think my pace is too slow, feel free just to skip ahead. Anyways, tomorrow I think the first thing we should do is to test out this method to have a proper unit test. Um, uh, I will elaborate on the importance of unit testing tomorrow. So yeah, let's wrap up today. Thank you everyone for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.